Hello everyone, welcome to this next edition of the confirmation class video lessons. Hope you enjoyed doing the last one, and thank you for sending me the work that you've done in. I hope you're all well and enjoying the relaxation of the restrictions. We've got another couple of classes to do after this one, and then I'll need to actually get everyone together in a church for one last one, kind of at the end of your school term, and then you'll be ready to be confirmed and we can get a service organised as soon as we can after that. So what I'll do is I'll go through last time's work, and then I'll just talk a little bit about the subject that you're going to be looking at this time, which I've sent an email link to your parents for. So just ask your grown-up to open that up and watch that PowerPoint with them. And then, as ever, we'll end with a quiz and a task for you to send me something in. So the task we set last time, we were thinking about Jesus's Last Supper with his disciples, and I asked you to find out the names of all of the disciples who were with Jesus at the Last Supper. So this is a very famous picture of Jesus's Last Supper by a very famous artist who I'm sure you'll have heard of, called Leonardo da Vinci. And this shows you each one of the disciples in this depiction and the names. So thank you for those who sent me the names in. You can check your answers, and also don't forget Jesus was present, although I didn't ask you to say Jesus. I just said give me the names of the disciples. So there we are. So there's Bartholomew, James the Younger, Andrew, Judas Iscariot, Peter, John, Jesus himself, Thomas, James, Philip, Matthew, Thaddeus, and Simon the Zealot. There he is, Simon the Zealot. So that's the answers to the question, who was present at Jesus' Last Supper. So I asked you to go through the second part of the PowerPoint, so just briefly, there we are. Why do people go to church? And that's just to get the idea of worshipping together, that Christians can obviously say the prayers by themselves, but it's good when people that like and believe and enjoy the same things come together. And especially we do that to receive Holy Communion, which we'll be the Eucharist, which we'll be thinking about in the work that I've sent to you. And important occasions in the church, there are many, obviously. Weddings are a big happy occasion in church. There we are. And many of you might have been to a church wedding, and it's certainly a service that I always enjoy taking, always a happy occasion in a church. And this next one, some other occasions, baptisms. I don't quite baptise people like that because it'd make a huge mess on the floor, wouldn't it, if I poured water over their heads, but some churches do, and maybe do that outside or even by a river. But we usually have a baptism, or another word is christening, at the special place at the front of church, which you know about, called the font. And as it says, this was done because John the Baptist baptised Jesus. And also, services that we do have in church are funerals, where we have a chance for a family to say goodbye to someone who's died, who's been part of their family. And the next one, obviously we can also worship at home, and sometimes we do that. We have smaller groups in people's homes, and sometimes it's by choice. But sadly, in some countries, Christianity is banned and people have to meet together in their home. So in that sense, like we've said before, the church is actually not the building, just the building. The church is the people, and the church is those people worshipping wherever and whenever they come together. So this time we're going to be thinking about the Eucharist itself. So we thought about Jesus's Last Supper, and we thought about why people come together in church. I'm going to talk to you about this part of the church service. Now, this is called the Eucharistic prayer, and different churches have different kind of versions of this, and even within our two churches there are different services that we use even in each church to remember that Last Supper and to share the together the prayer which remembers that Last Supper, and then to give out, to bless the wine. So we take one of these, which this plate, a special plate, is called a paten, Patten, and you can see here's some bread on there. We use wafers to represent the bread that Jesus used, although sometimes, say our Passover meal, we do use real bread. And this is the special cup that we use. We have got some wine in. I don't know if you can just actually see it without me tipping it up. Ooh, there we are. Yeah, you can just about see the reflection of it. There we are. So you've got some wine in there, and this is called a chalice. Okay, this is a chalice, 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 and we give that to each person usually to drink. Although when we do start having services again in church, I won't be able to give the wine out straight away, obviously for obvious reasons, but we will plan on giving people the bread. But I will still take the chalice and take, on behalf of everyone, take the sip of wine. But we look forward to the day that we can share once again in the chalice, the wine. So the bread and the wine, the paten and the chalice, are both things that I physically take hold of when I say the prayer which remembers Jesus' Last Supper, called the Eucharistic prayer. So I'm going to read through in a moment the part of that Eucharistic prayer which remembers exactly that Last Supper of Jesus. And then I'm going to give you a quiz, the usual 5-question quiz, which this time is just about the words that I'm going to read out in that Eucharistic prayer. So you've got to listen really carefully and write out the exact right answer. And then finally, I'm going to give you a task to do for you to send in to me. And then please do ask your grown-ups to open up the email and look through the PowerPoint, which again this time is all about the Eucharist, all about the Eucharist that we celebrate in church. So it's important to realise that when you're confirmed, one of the things about being confirmed is that when the bishop lays his hands on your head, and we believe the Holy Spirit comes down, and you become then a full part of the church, because you'll have said the words that were said for you on your behalf at your christening, at your baptism. So when that happens, you become a full part of the church, and as a full part of the church, you're then able to receive bread and one day, soon we hope, wine as well. So you will be able to come up and instead of receive a blessing at the altar, you'll receive bread and wine. And that's one of the reasons why I'll need us all to get together at some point after these video lessons, because I need to show you how to receive the bread and the wine in church, among other few practical things. Right, so here we go. I'm going to read out now the words that I actually say. I'll put that just there to remind us that I actually say at the service of the Eucharist. There you can just about see most of it. So listen carefully, and then I'll give you the 5 questions. So I'll say, grant that by the power of your Holy Spirit, and I'll put my hand above the bread and the wine, grant that by the power of the Holy Spirit, these gifts of bread and wine may be to us his body and his blood. And I make the sign of the cross over the bread and the wine to show that it's by the power of the Holy Spirit that they are to us Jesus' body and blood. Who, in the same night that he was betrayed, took bread and gave you thanks. He broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take, eat. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup and gave you thanks. He gave it to them, saying, "Drink this, all of you. This is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." I drink the wine. Right, so those are the words that I read out in the Eucharistic prayer. So if you've got your paper and pens at the ready, here's the questions. It is by the power of what that the Eucharistic prayer says that the bread and wine are to us Jesus' body and blood? By the power of what do they become Jesus' body and blood? Question number 2. What is the first thing that Jesus did after he took bread? What's the first thing that Jesus did after he took bread? Question 3. Why did Jesus say that we should take and eat the bread? Why did Jesus say that we should take and eat the bread? Question 4. How did Jesus describe his blood, i.e. the blood of the something? It's described as this is the blood of the something. I want to know what that something is. And question 5. How often did Jesus say that we should drink the wine? How often did Jesus say that we should drink the wine? That's a bit of a trick question. You have to listen really carefully for that one. Okay, so here's the answers. Give yourselves a tick or a cross. Question 1, the Holy Spirit. Question 2, gave thanks to God, or just gave thanks will be okay. Question 3, in remembrance of him. Question 4, new covenant, the blood of the new covenant. And question 5, this is a bit tricky, as often as we drink it. So do this as often as we drink it. So I hope you've all got 5 out of 5. If not, you'll have to rewind and do the whole thing again until you get those right answers. And we have a task. So this is the task now for this week. For next week, I want you to design and get your grown-up to send in to me a clip art picture of the Eucharist that we could use in a poster that we can put up advertising the church reopening. Okay, so the church is going to be reopening soon for normal services, and we might put a poster up to advertise that. And I want a clip art picture, so something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. You can use your own imagination. So you see, it's not like a photograph, it's clip art. It's been drawn a picture of the chalice and a picture of the bread there. So you can be as imaginative as you want in that. You can just have the bread and the wine. You could have the chalice and the pattern. You could have the priest at the front. You could have the altar. You decide, but it's got to be a clip art picture. So as simple or as complicated as you want. And please send them in to me and we might use one of them for our poster to advertise the reopening of church. Design a clip art picture of the Eucharist, which the church can use in a poster to advertise its reopening. So those are the tasks for this week. Watch that PowerPoint and design that poster. And thank you for the questions that have been sent in. Really impressed with some of those questions, asking intelligent questions about why we do things in church. I'll be answering those questions. Like, for example, about the different colours that we wear and the different robes and gowns and things that I wear. We'll be answering those questions in the videos, but also in that time that we come together in church for our last confirmation class lesson. That'll be right at the end of your school term. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week and all the easing of all the regulations. I hope you're able to do things you weren't able to do in the last couple of months, and I look forward to receiving those pictures. So until next time, thank you for watching. Take care.